controversy and other local issues. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. State lawmakers in both the Texas House and Senate have considered several bills that would loosen regulations around firearms in Texas. Will they pass?
And we want to know your thoughts, so give us a call at 713-440-8870 or email us, talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click the big orange banner.
And the Texas House is expected to vote today on bills to create a $1 billion private school voucher program. What are your thoughts on this?
All this and more right here on Hello Houston, right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The White House has confirmed that President Trump is considering deporting certain U.S. citizens, specifically those he has labeled as violent criminals, to foreign prisons. NPR's Mara Liasson reports.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says that sending American citizens to foreign prisons is something the administration is looking into. President Trump also told a Fox News program that he's interested in sending American citizens to the same Salvadoran prison that is currently housing alleged gang members deported from the U.S. The president told Fox he'd like to deport Americans born on U.S. soil, people he called homegrowns.
We are looking into it and we want to do it. I would love to do that.
It's clear from the president's comments that he's not sure whether deporting U.S. citizens to foreign jails would be constitutional, and at least for now, he's waiting to determine the answer before he tries to do it. Mara Liasson, NPR News.
Just a short time ago, Attorney General Pam Bondi reiterated that the Maryland man who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador last month is not coming back to the U.S. Meanwhile, the Justice Department says it's suing the state of Maine's Education Department for not complying with the government's push to ban transgender athletes in girls' sports. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the legal action this morning.
Today, the Department of Justice is announcing a civil lawsuit against the Maine Department of Education. The state of Maine is discriminating against women by failing to protect women in women's sports. Pretty basic stuff.
The Justice Department argues Maine is violating the federal Title IX by allowing transgender girls to play on girls' sports teams. The state says the law does not prevent schools from allowing transgender athletes to participate. Prices for automobile parts are rising because of tariffs, and this is making it more expensive to buy, repair, and maintain a car. NPR's Camila Dominowski reports it also means there will be pressure on auto insurance rates to rise.
Pandemic-era supply chain snarls pushed up repair costs and sent insurance rates soaring. Now, tariffs on steel, aluminum, and many imports could do the same again. Shannon Martin, an insurance expert at Bankrate, says when insurance companies face higher costs, they have to increase what they charge to match.
If you get into a car accident, they know that the cost of that accident is going to cost them a lot more in the future than it would have in the past.
Rates won't go up overnight. There's also huge uncertainty around nearly every facet of these tariffs, which makes it hard to predict consumer impacts. Camila Dominowski, NPR News.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 56 points. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. Former Fort Bend County Commissioner candidate Terrell Patel has pleaded guilty to 2 counts of misrepresentation of identity. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, News 88.7's Natalie Weber tells us more about the conditions of his plea deal.
Patel has agreed to do community service, write apology letters, and cooperate with future legal proceedings. This is Prosecutor Wesley Wittig.
Mr. Patel is taking responsibility for his conduct and is going to be making very public apology.
Patel is accused of faking racist attacks against his own campaign and that of Fort Bend County Judge K.P. George. In his plea deal, Patel admits to committing one of the misdemeanors with the county judge. George's attorney, Jared Woodfill, says the prosecution of his client is politically motivated.
I think ultimately you'll find there's no evidence to link Judge George to any of the conduct that Mr. Patel was engaged in.
Patel declined to comment but shared his apology letter to the public. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
The Texas House will hold a second hearing today on a bill that honors 11-year-old Audrey Cunningham. She died at the hands of a man who had a history of being a child predator in the Houston area. News 88.7's Matt Harrod reports.
Stephen McDougal was convicted of murder for the incident that occurred back in February of last year. If the bill that's being considered today passes committee, it could add child grooming to the list of crimes that require registration as a sex offender. It will have a House vote and a Senate vote before it heads over to Governor Greg Abbott's desk, where he would sign it into law.
That's News 88.7's Matt Harrod reporting. Harris County says it's suing a couple in a case of what the government says is stolen land. Attorney Christian Menifee is seeking more than $1 million in damages. ABC 13 reports the county is accusing Alba and Jaron Martinez of forging legal documents in order to falsely claim ownership of roughly 35 properties across the county. It's 72 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Procter & Gamble, maker of Metamucil, a fiber supplement containing psyllium, a plant-based fiber for trapping and removing waste in the digestive system, designed to be taken every day. More at metamucil.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Good morning, Houston.
Made it. Middle of the week.
I know. Hump day.
Hump day.
Hump day.
What day is it, Mike? Remember that commercial? The camel, and you walk around. Oh. What day is it, Mike? Hump day.
You know, while Frank makes those impersonations, you can see that live on YouTube. If you join us on our YouTube channel, just go to youtube.com/Houston Public Media. That'll give you the Houston Public Media channel. Also at houstonpublicmedia.org. Frank likes to talk about that big orange button.
I mean, it's right there. It doesn't really show up until we hit the air. So if you look for it right at 11 o'clock, you won't see it. But if you look for it right now, you will see it.
Click that button, and then you can see this.
Perfect.
All of this.
All of us.
We have an exciting packed show for you today. Coming up this hour, we're going to talk with Precinct 1 County Commissioner Rodney Ellis is going to be here with lots to talk about there. And then even more fun stuff in the second hour. But before we get to all of that, I already know Celeste is really worked up on this first story.
I am.
So, Celeste, take us away with the headlines of the day.
It's the one we've all been watching happening right now out of Austin. The Texas House is expected to vote today on the school voucher plan. The one that we've all been, the controversial one. We were watching this, and it's happening right now. This is an issue that has been Governor Abbott's top priorities and would give families roughly $10,000 a year in taxpayer money to spend on private education, like tuition and other school-related expenses, because you don't just pay for tuition when you send your child to private school. You pay for books and uniforms, and when you're using the word vouchers. But what the plan will actually establish are educational savings accounts. The state will set aside $1 billion for these educational saving accounts, and then families can apply for them. And one of the big questions is what happens if demand exceeds the $1 billion? Well, students with disabilities and families that are considered low income will take priority based on eligibility. Are you in favor or against this voucher program? We want to know your thoughts, and we know you all have a lot of thoughts on this. We all do. Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I do want to just quickly jump in and say that we are monitoring this, and if there are updates on the story, Celeste will be sharing them with us throughout the show.
And to be clear, a family of 4 making $62,400 or less is considered low income. So that would have priority. And I like, this is the House bill. And I like that the House put that students with disabilities would also have priority. Right. The question becomes, will private schools allow children with disabilities to attend?
Right.
Because they're getting my money. If kids, no matter who they are using our money to go to that school, and then that school says, well, but we have limits or rules. based on whatever, that rubs me the wrong way.
Well, there are so many layers to this. And the way I see it is sometimes when something gets so big and complex, you got to go back to the basics. And you look at the pros and the cons. And there are a lot of cons. And so to me, the way I see this is make this make sense. This is not the first time a state has tried to do this. We've seen school voucher bills and policies pass in other states. We've also seen them fail. And so the other thing is sustainability of the funding. How many people are going to be applying for this? And if you're looking at the families that are eligible, low-income families, or like you said, families that have children with disabilities are going to have to fill out the paperwork to apply, which just for anybody applying to private school is complex. It's expensive. There's exams involved. To me, it just is one of those things where
I would be interested.
I'm pretty revved up about this because as the more I talked about this and learned about this, I said, how is this possible? But it has been top priority from Governor Abbott.
And we don't know even what the application would look like because the one in Arkansas became very controversial. Why do you want to send your child to this school? And one of the answers was, I want a better mix of race. That lasted about 6 hours and it was taken off
immediately.
But it was there. And not that it would be there in a Texas application, but I would like to see the application. You'll probably get one, given that you're a mom of two school-age kids.
We are in that. I look at this, and right now my oldest daughter is in elementary school at HISD. I've said this before. And, when you're looking and you're weighing your options, especially for Houstonians right now, given the landscape of our academic and education landscape with our district, you're looking at your options. And when I look at private school, just for myself and my husband, and I have support, it is complex. It is not easy.
It's also expensive.
Yes.
And this is a thing that I think is being missed in a lot of the conversation we hear about it. $10,000 sounds like a lot. Well, most families would have to pay additional dollars on top of that.
Correct.
So low-income families wouldn't be able to afford to send them to a private school because it would just be, in a sense, a coupon, a voucher toward tuition. Where a higher-end school gets this, a higher-end family that's making more money gets the advantage of, a discount on tuition for us.
Correct.
So is it really serving the need of the people who need it, or is it just giving a discount to families that can already afford it? And the families that can't afford it, it's not going to move it for them anyway.
And it's $1 billion today. What's it going to be in 2 or 3 years?
Right. The sustainability of the funding model is.
And if I'm Billingsley Middle School and I already charge $20,000, and now you're going to get $10,000 free, well, you know what? I might think about charging $30 because you can afford that $20. Right? You can afford that $20, and now you're going to get a free $10. So why won't I raise? What's going to regulate private schools from raising their prices? Maybe they are. I don't know. But this does go back to the Senate.
Yes,
right?
It will.
It's not done today.
That is right. That's right. It will be if the House approves the voucher bill, it will head back to the Senate. The upper chamber already approved its own version of the program and has passed several of its own priority school funding bills, but it will head back to the Senate.
And we want to know what you think on this story, so call us right now at 713-440-8870.
And one more thing, I have yet to find a teacher, and I know a lot of them, who support vouchers.
I would love to hear from teachers. I also would love to hear from parents and principals, parents who send their kids currently to private schools right now as well.
Yeah, and I wasn't wrapping up this topic. I was just giving the phone number because I think we're heated on it. The other thing, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, Celeste, but this money is coming from the education fund.
Correct.
Therefore, once it goes into the hands of parents, it's not going to our school districts. So if higher income families take this money, use it as, I'm saying, like a coupon toward their tuition. That money, though, is coming out of the public schools. Then you've got less funding in public schools, and the lower income families that don't have an option and are going to have to go into the public schools, they're being even more defunded, unless I'm misunderstanding the math.
And homeschoolers get money too, right?
Homeschoolers get money as well. And also, if you look at the radius, if you look at our private schools landscape here in Houston, and you do a radius, how many low-income families really do live around Kincaid, live around St. John? So you're telling me now, let's just say a single mother of 3 who probably most likely is making ends meet and trying to get her kids a good education within our public school system is going to get $10,000 to send their child to a private school that they're going to have to pay for exams, entrance exams, preparing the student, then drive them across the city to get to a private school?
Mm-hmm.
Come
There's
on.
a lot to this. We
Come
are
on.
curious in what you think, how you feel about this. You're definitely hearing how we think about it. 713-440-8870. Kevin is on the line from North Houston. Kevin, what's on your mind?
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show. I was just thinking, I kind of like what the House the House Democrats are doing, where they're trying to put up some sort of block with the constitutional amendments to try to force the Republicans to put it up for a vote, which I doubt that they'll do. But it's obvious that based on, some statistics and some surveys that have been done, that most Texans don't agree with this. And it was, because most rural areas don't have private schools at all. And so
Correct.
when those constituents went out and started talking to their representatives to go to the governor and say, hey, look, we're standing up against this, he primaried them, which I thought was amazing. He spent millions of dollars to get these people out, and they were speaking up for their constituents, Republican constituents, I might add. So I just feel like, this is his pet peeve, this is his pet project, and he's going to push it regardless. So I say take it to the, we need to push it to where they can at least take it to us to allow us to vote on it.
Yeah. Kevin, quick question here. Do you have school-age children?
I do, yes.
How are you feeling about this? If it were to go into effect, how would that impact your life?
Well, I tried to get my daughter into private school before. I couldn't afford it. And there were stipulations there where we were denied several times for whatever reason. One of them was because of test scores, and the other one didn't even explain why they didn't want us in. So we got denied like 3 times already in the city.
If you were given Kevin, if you were given $10,000, could you then afford it?
No, I still couldn't afford it, me personally, because the schools that I went to, the tuition was like, I think, $40,000 schools that we tried to get my daughter into. And so I still couldn't afford it, so.
I think that's Celeste's point. Celeste's point is the rich that can afford $40,000 can already afford $40,000, and this doesn't really help people with low income.
Yeah.
That's right.
Kevin, thank you very much for sharing that thought
Thanks,
with us
Kevin.
and for expressing your concerns. Also, we have another call. We have Dennis from the Heights on the line. Dennis, what's on your mind?
Hi, it's Denise.
Oh, sorry, Denise.
That's okay. I'm a product of private schools myself, and I don't have children, and I've never resented paying taxes to support the school system, but I really don't want my tax dollars going to support religious education and religious schools, because I think that there's a bright line there.
Well, and religious schools, I'm assuming people could use these vouchers to go to. So our son went to St. Michael's, to put it up front, for 2 years before transferring to HSPVA. But I felt like that was the best thing for him at the time.
Right. Denise, thank you for your call, and we appreciate all of your input. 713-440-8870. Bobby's on the line from Galveston. Bobby, what's on your mind?
I'm a grandmother of a child who is in private school in Galveston, and it took grandparents helping to pay for the tuition, and I'm still opposed to school vouchers.
Why?
First of all, I think one of the great things about the United States is we have public education for everyone.
Absolutely.
And it's critical that we educate well and spend our tax dollars to have a population that is educated.
Yep, I agree.
Bobby, Bobby, we're going to move on. Thank you for sharing with us as we wrap this segment up. Celeste, you made a good point earlier today, too, when talking about this, is just because you have that account, that money, doesn't mean you're going to be admitted. So these students may, as we were hearing from Denise, or
Denise.
Was it Denise who said, or Kevin who said that they were still rejected. Even though it's a complicated, thorny issue, but we're interested in what you have to say. Give us a call. It's 713-440-8870.
Coming up on Hello Houston, Precinct 1 County Commissioner Rodney Ellis is here to join the conversation. And we're also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7. Hello Houston is one of the ways we're responding to what you need. Houston Public Media is constantly innovating to bring you more news and information. And we do it with an eye toward connecting with you. With your help, we can continue to find new ways to bring you into the conversation. Please give now and get your donation doubled at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman here with Frank Billingsley.
Yeah, it's double day. Isn't that awesome?
Amazing.
Okay, so right now, that means your gift will go twice as far. $20 a month becomes $40 a month for the entire year, not just 1 month, the entire year, to help Houston Public Media do even more for you. And that sustaining gift will protect the station you rely on. Get your donation doubled right now, please. HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And let's be honest, your donation is needed now more than ever. The future of national funding for public media is under threat. That funding provides 10% of Houston public media's annual budget, and any loss of that funding will have an impact on our ability to continue delivering the trusted news and information you and our community rely on every single day. The station faces other economic uncertainties too. Your donation will help offset those challenges. Please help and get your donation doubled right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
So now is the moment to stand up, stand with public media and make your gift at a time when that funding is at risk. This campaign is focused on raising the money to keep Houston Public Media's reliable, fact-based journalism secure. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org or by calling 888-909-0887.
Independent public media journalism is one of the best providers of reliable, trustworthy information. And right now, the Public Media Network faces new economic challenges. You can help. Support journalism that respects your thoughts and respects your ideas and provides information based on facts. And that is the key. Facts, not opinions. And when you give now, your donation will go twice as far for the trusted news you need. Please give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Hello, Houston. Our show is a fantastic forum for open discussion, just like we heard moments ago. There are fewer and fewer spaces like this. So these spaces where you can share your ideas and hear from others is a respectful environment. Mm-hmm. Your donation helps to secure and protect this space. So please give now when other funding is under threat and when your donation will be doubled. Please give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And thank you for your donation during this important fundraiser. Public media is for the public. We're not here to benefit advertisers, big media groups, or investors. We're here to improve life for you in Greater Houston. So thank you for making your gift right now and helping us secure the future of independent news in a time of uncertainty. At Houston Public Media, you can donate, houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. Again, 888-909-0887.
You know how important trusted news is for your ability to make informed decisions. That's why News 88.7 is your station.
At Houston Public Media, we give you the facts clearly and honestly so you can make decisions about your life.
Don't let anything stand in the way of your right to stay informed. Donate today to ensure that trusted news remains free and available for everyone in our community.
Give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from the Houston Zoo, presenting its annual Feast with the Beasts. Cuisine from a number of Houston's diverse eateries, animal experiences, live music, and more. May 2nd. More at houstonzoo.org. Support comes from John Moore, helping with plumbing, electrical, and air conditioning repairs, including out-of-warranty units since 1965. Details at 730-2525 or at johnmooreservices.com.
Support comes from the Houston Rockets, presenting their 2025-26 season ticket memberships with access to live sports, suite availability, and opportunities for business engagement. More at rockets.com/tickets or 713-758-7300.
Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, opening the 25-26 season with Porgy and Bess, featuring music by George Gershwin, blending jazz, blues, and spirituals. Select dates available now at hgo.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Rice University's Master of Liberal Studies, combining an interdisciplinary Rice education with a flexible degree plan for working adults. More at gls.rice.edu. Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Near Northwest Management District, with a developer-friendly environment and Houston's 6th largest business center. More information at nnmd.org. At the intersection of innovation.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Vouchers got you going.
They got me going.
They should.
We didn't
It's a
get to
big
any of our
subject.
other headlines.
I know.
But, I think it's important we stick with the issues that matter to Houston.
I'm a big proponent of education, so.
Well, Hello Houston is designed to be a platform for local, state, and federal leaders to openly discuss policies. It's also a platform for you to join in on the discussion, ask the questions on issues that matter to you. So today we welcome Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. He represents Precinct 1, which covers parts of central, north, and south Houston where over 1 million residents live. He has served the district since 2017 and has deep ties to Houston. To give you an idea, Precinct 1 houses several Houston landmarks, including Hobby and Bush Airport, the Toyota Center, the University of Houston downtown and main campus, as well as University of St. Thomas and Rice University. That just gives you an idea of the reach and scope of Precinct 1. So to discuss issues facing his precinct, we welcome County Commissioner Rodney Ellis to Hello Houston. Hello there, Commissioner.
Hello, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be with all three of you. I like the new digs.
Thank you.
Quite uplifting.
Yeah.
If you're listening right now or watching us on YouTube and you have questions for the Commissioner, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Before we get into all of the issues we have for you and talking about that, obviously we were talking about school vouchers. Any thoughts, feelings on that as it moves through the State House?
I'm a big supporter of public education.
Yes, sir.
And in my mind, I just don't see any way putting $1 billion into vouchers when the state has severely underfunded public education for so long helps. Look, I was in the legislature a long time, 26, approaching 27 years. It's always a challenge, but there's nothing more fundamental, nothing more important that you can do as a state legislator or the governor than fund education.
Well, sir, can you explain in a short sentence or two, why is this the governor's pet project? Why does he want this so badly?
I think it's unfortunate, but the grand old party has been overtaken by a small sliver of people who are very loud, very active, and have supporters who are very wealthy. And it's unfortunate, but it's really turning their backs on public education.
So you think it's just making the rich richer?
It's going to make the rich richer, and you get a few people, maybe some churches or whoever who operate some of these private schools who can benefit from it. Right. But it's certainly won't the vast majority of people. Look, big problem in Texas is we have over 1,000 school districts. A state of 30 million people, over 1,000 school districts. So the big issue, there's always this issue of funding, the inequality there is because the state leaves it on locals to do it. And obviously, if you live in an area that just has downtown in it, and you get the tax revenue from that, and that's all you have, you're in pretty good shape. But if you're in a large metropolitan area like Houston, 2.2 million people, it's a real challenge. In Harris County alone, we got 20.
I remember when the lottery money was promised to go to education. That never happened.
It wouldn't fund it. Well, eventually they did earmark it for education.
Yeah.
But that money that comes from people who gamble, I'm pretty good with numbers. So I've never bought a lottery ticket. For those who do it, fine.
You don't like
it
the
wouldn't
odds?
keep the public. I can't remember when I was in the legislature. It was a great line. I think all that money comes from the lottery, wouldn't fund public education in Texas clearly for a month. It may have been a week. Just Google it. AI will let you know. But there's always, look, there's no short way to get around it. It takes money to run government.
Sure.
Yeah.
It takes money to run schools. The tax rates you pay in Harris County to the schools is higher than anyone in any other entity that's funded here. But it is important. All my kids came out of public schools. Thank God. The last one's about to come out of college. They don't come off the payroll. But if you want to send your kids to a private school, pay for it.
Well, I think Harris County has some of the best public schools, probably in the state, if not the nation.
The biggest one's a problem, HISD, which is the one that has the bulk of the problems. What they want to do is cherry pick when you go out with these vouchers. In the country, I'd say to you probably New Jersey. Not because I had a kid from my first marriage, just left a home, in fact, who ended up coming out, but New Jersey does a very good job of funding its public schools. It's always a challenge in the urban areas in Newark. She was in Bergen County. But look, we always say that. Everywhere I've served, and you know my story, on city council, state legislature, and that county, everywhere I've served, everybody says what they have is the model for the nation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I say, what is this? Where does the hyperbole come from? If everybody's model for the nation, you got to measure it somehow. So if you go Google, this AI stuff is amazing.
It's amazing.
You gotta analyze it, but if you go just pull AI, who has the best public schools in America? I don't think that Texas is going to pop up. Now, if you're in Plano, if you're in a wealthy district, if you're in an urban area, it's hard for downtown Houston, the highest property we have, to just fund it all. But you go carve them up in these areas where you have a lot of wealth, and you do well.
Yeah. I do want to hold elected officials accountable, and I want clarity on this. You never bought a raffle. You never bought a lottery ticket.
I never bought one when Texas passed it. And the reason was I carried the bill for
a couple $1 billion in that offering for $1.
Here are the odds. You think about it. Yeah. 30 million people, and you can buy them. You can be out of state and buy them now.
Yeah.
Just the odds of winning.
Well, that's
I'm
not
glad
what we
they
have
do
you
it.
here
We
for.
want the money, but I'm just saying, if you buy a lottery ticket, you're not very good at math.
Well, since you can't vote on the vouchers,
you might be damn lucky, but you're not good at math.
And you're not going to buy a lottery ticket. No. We're going to stick you to the issues that you deal with, and also to bring in our folks who are listening who have questions for you. The number here is 713-440-8870. On the line, we have Alon with us. Alon, what's on your mind today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rodney Ellis, thank you.
Good morning.
I'm a cyclist in the 70s now, but I had a bicycle over all the streets in Harris County, and I'm about two-thirds of the way there, three-quarters of those inside Houston. Back in the 1990s, I had a head-on collision with a drunk driver. And our combined velocity was about freeway speeds, but I had bought a bicycle helmet 2 weeks before that. Now, my concerns about bicycle safety, dogs running loose, cars driving above the speed limit are all things that intimidate cyclists. But my number one is that the Public Works is not keeping the cracks, the crevices between lanes. They can catch a wheel and throw the cyclist down right when they're riding in traffic.
Alon, thank you for your thoughts, comments on this. If you have been listening to our show, Hello Houston, we've been talking a lot about bike safety and the bike lanes and what's going on there. You, as I understand, are a very strong proponent of bike lanes and what's going on.
I am. I love cycling. First, I tell you, Alon, don't cycle in traffic, by the way, and get a good helmet. But on the broader issue that I know you want to talk about, I'm very proud of the fact that as a county commissioner, I've invested unprecedented county resources on city streets. In fact, here at the University of Houston, I'm sure you enjoy what we did with your county dollars on Cullen. That was $15 million. I called it the University Corridor Project. $15 million for Texas Southern, $15 million for TSU, for Texas Southern and U of H. I had no idea it would cost over $15 million to just do from the freeway to the bayou on Cullen. And at TSU, it was more than a miracle mile. I don't think it was quite a mile to go from Scott to, I think, Tier-Wester because of the infrastructure. The city had ignored it for decades. Maybe it hadn't been done since I was on city council. Not that I did it. That would have been Mayor Cathy with or maybe when Lee Brown or Bob Lanier was in, maybe they redid it. But we narrowed Cullen from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. This is a university.
So I'm a little confused. So the county and the city both cover sort of the same areas, right? So who's in charge of roads? Who's in charge of bike lanes?
The city is in charge of roads in the city limits. The county builds the roads in unincorporated. Here's an interesting point. 5 million people, 4.9 in Harris County. There are more people in unincorporated Harris County than there are in the city of Houston.
By a few, yes, that's for sure.
Yeah, by a few. But so the largest city would be unincorporated something, Harris County. But I made the decision that I would invest in infrastructure in the city of Houston because the city of Houston didn't do it, it didn't have the money to do it. I haven't made it all up, but it probably approached $100 million. Some of it off-road, some of it on-road. I'm into cycling for health and fitness. It's not just a leisure thing for folks on the weekends. There are people, believe it or not, in this city who can't afford a car. And the way they get to work is on a bicycle. Unfortunately, some of them are now on these scooters as well. Hope my kids are not doing it. But look, I made that decision to do it. I'm proud that I did it. I was disappointed, before you asked, that after investing unprecedented resources in the city, which is not my job, I'm not a city council member now.
So why did you put the money in the city when you didn't have to?
I did it because I try to pick projects that are broad-based. No matter where you live, you probably interact with this university corridor, as I referred to it at some point. And that's certainly what people saying, well, why don't you do my neighbor? I can't do them all. Can't help everybody. But I'd never take position, I'm not going to help anybody because I can't help everybody. So I made the decision. We did some surveys, but I said, look, TSU, University of Houston, if you live unincorporated, if you live in Galveston County, you interact with this area. So what can we do to make it better? Not just for road safety for people on bicycles, but for students and faculty who are here. And we wanted to make Cullen the gateway. That's the front door to the University of Houston. And we wanted to make Cleburne and the other side, Blodgett, front doors to Texas Southern University. So we did it.
I want to take
about $38 million that we spent on those two.
I'm going to take you out of that neighborhood over to what gets a lot of attention is what's happening on Austin Street and the tearing up of the bike lanes. And I'm just curious, your understanding of the concept, I don't even want to say the logic, but the idea behind these are already there. And there's talking about saving money, but they're ripping up something that's there. Is there
$2 million? It was all county money. The city under Mayor Niece Parker did a very creative thing. They decided to pave these bayous. That's really green space that makes our city attractive for people who want to come here, want to encourage convention visitors or whatever. City put up on that bond issue, I don't know, maybe $100 million. Private sector put in maybe about $140 million. When I became a county commissioner, I closed the gap. They were about $9 million short, so I put the last $9 million in with county money to go and do that. But you want to connect these bayous. They all run the same direction. They go to the Gulf of Mexico. They keep us from flooding.
They do.
But when it's not raining, that really is natural green space. That's those linear parks let us compete with Central Park in other places. But you want to connect them. Austin Street was the first connection where you could connect Buffalo Bayou, somewhat circuitous. Under Mayor Turner, you had neighborhoods that raised a bit of cane. So it's circuitous, but you can go down Austin and La Branch, and you can get from Brays Bayou. You got to run up by the University of Houston, up to Bayou a bit. You can connect Buffalo Bayou and Brays Bayou. So that's why we did Austin. Spent $2 million. It's really to connect those two.
So jump me quickly ahead then. It's been cited as the repair is so expensive and that they're not as safe as we thought and all of that, and that's why they're tearing them out. Is that your understanding of what's happening?
I never got a call. It would be nice if someone gave you $2 million. I did the street because it was part of their bike plan, not my bike plan. I was in the state senate. I was in the biking, but I had nothing to do with the plan. So the city came to me and said, will you do this? In fact, what I did was commit $10 million. I think the city of Houston said in their bike plan of Mayor Turner they were going to spend about $1 million a year, $1.1 million a year for 4 years for the bike safety plan. It was just a handshake. We had some bike summit, and they'd given the city an F, gave the county a C. We all unincorporated. That's what we're responsible for. So I said to Mayor Turner, I said, let's do a handshake. I'll put up $10 million. Use it or lose it in 1 year. And you take your $1.1 million over the next 5 years, spend it all in Precinct 1. That didn't quite happen, but when I see him on the other side, I'm going to still complain about it. But this $2 million for Austin Street was part of that. And we did designs to go and connect several other bayous. I think trying to get to Sims Bayou on the south side and trying to connect Halls and Greens on the other side. So, look, but I never got a call. But, look, if there were safety issues, what we did was put Austin on the county's road log. The city agreed in a local agreement. We took it to do the bike lanes, and I had to do them. That took a year, maintained it for a year, and then, okay, madam, sir, it's yours. We gave it back. So if there were maintenance issues, it was their responsibility after the 1 year that I maintained it. I did write a letter, or at least I approached the city, my staff did, and said, look, I'll go and fix it up. It's time to spruce it up. But you need to send me something in writing that you won't take it up, because there were rumors. Here's what I'm going to, at least for me. It ought to be a county policy, because let's not waste the public's money. If one governmental entity is going to do something for another governmental entity, there ought to be an agreement. If you're going to change it, give me my money back. Mm-hmm. If you change it, administration, if you wake up one day and decide you were for Vision Zero, you know what that is, and then you pass an ordinance for Vision Zero, and then new administration, you're no longer for Vision Zero. Yeah. You don't see the value of it, whatever reason. Just give the money back to any governmental entity that gives you money. If we take money from the federal government, say we're going to do one thing, and we change our mind, you got to give it back. So at least for Precinct 1, if I ever spend any more money that I control in the city of Houston, there have to be an agreement.
Well, it sounds to me like you're saying that any money that was left there to maintain Austin Street somehow disappeared.
No, there was no money to maintain it.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it?
The agreement was I would put it in. It took me a year to put it in, design, go through all that, put it there. And then for 1 year, I would maintain it. And then after that year, Austin's been completed for several years. After that year is over with, it goes back to the city. So it was their responsibility to maintain it. But I would have volunteered to put up a modest amount. You know, depends on what it would cost. But yeah, after any street needs repairs. But look, on the broader issue, here's the real challenge there. The city's broke. We all know that. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen under this mayor. It didn't happen under the previous mayor. It was over a series of things, including challenges from our state partners who put a cap on our ability to bring in revenue, but they can't cap our ability to grow because people keep coming. And then they put in requirements on certain areas, law enforcement, where you could never reduce the budget. And then the city imposed a stricter revenue cap on itself under Mayor Bill White, probably for good cause. But so look, it doesn't help when you end up fighting in a sandbox, including, in case you decide to ask about it, that bill involving the toll road in Austin.
Oh, we might get to that in a little bit.
But it doesn't help for intergovernmental relations when you need one another.
You're listening to Hello Houston, and we're speaking with County Commissioner Rodney Ellis right here on Hello Houston, and we welcome you to the conversation at 713-440-8870. Alexander from Sugarland is on the line. Alexander, what is your comment or question for Commissioner Ellis?
Hey, well, first comment for the entire group. Love the show, love the new format, and thank you, Commissioner Ellis, for all the work that you've done. I've been a longtime Houston resident, born in Pasadena, so I'm very familiar with all the work you've been engaged in, so thank you. I just wanted to talk about the Braves Bayou Greenway Trail. Like, I love that trail. I run the largest inline skating group in the city of Houston, and we skate streets all over the city. We have to share with cars, we have to share with bikes, and unfortunately, we don't have the greatest roads in the world. We know that. But the Braves Trail is incredible, and I'm curious to understand, like, what's the next iteration of that trail? Are we going to see it connected to, like, the library loop and some other bigger trails? Will it take us to the airport? To your point, not everybody has access to a vehicle. Some people use scooters or skates or however they get it around the city, and I really would love to see the expansion of these beautiful trails because they're just outstanding and they connect our city from one part to the other.
Those trails are a good example of intergovernmental cooperation. The bayous are controlled by the county. Primary reason for them, the good Lord put them there to get the water out of here. City's responsibility is to get the water, drainage issues in your neighborhood to the bayous. County has stepped up. We have spent unprecedented resources on drainage on city streets, which we're not responsible for. With this battle going on over the toll road and other issues, it's going to be a real challenge. First, on that drainage area, because that's the real reason the bayous are there. Mm-hmm. But it is an amenity that we ought to use. I love Houston. I was born here. I've been here all my life. But it's a challenge.
We'll be continuing our conversation with Commissioner Ellis right here on Hello Houston after our break. Stay with us. You're listening during our very important spring fundraiser. This week is vital for Houston Public Media because there are real threats to funding for all of public media. Other economic challenges are on the horizon too. And when other funding is threatened, people like you help us keep trusted journalism alive. Please give now and get your donation doubled at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman here with Ernie Manouse.
You know, you participate in the discussions on Hello Houston and you play a vital role behind the scenes as a contributor to this powerhouse news organization. We're planning ahead because we don't know what's going to happen with national funding for public media. This fundraiser is a big part of how we're working to secure the future of your news. Please work with us today to secure the reliable information you need tomorrow. Please donate at houstonpublicmedia.org or by calling 888-909-0887.
And here's the deal. Right now is your opportunity to make double the impact for trusted independent journalism right here on Houston Public Media. Your gift of $200 becomes $400. Even $5 a month becomes $10 a month for an entire year. But you have to act fast. Don't wait. Double your gift before time runs out at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
We believe you deserve access to meaningful, thoughtful conversations. That's what Hello Houston is all about. Stories that bring you closer to your community. You hear perspectives that are relevant, real, and rooted in this city. Support this open forum for respectful dialogue. It's easy to do. Just join us online at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887 and get that gift doubled right now.
Your right to know what's really going on in our world depends on more than just great journalism. It depends on your participation.
Houston Public Media is funded by Houstonians for Houstonians. 80% of our budget comes directly from you, our community.
That's how trusted information stays free and accessible. No ads, no shareholders, just clear and careful reporting.
Protect your right to stay informed by visiting houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Novotny & Company, offering commercial and residential property tax protests for 38 years. The deadline to file a protest is May 21st in Harris County. Info and online filing at novotnycompany.com. Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community with a variety of living options, from new construction, mature neighborhoods, and urban living, designed for any lifestyle. More at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Houston Community College's Health Sciences program, with facilities all over Houston for real-world learning. Sign up information and more at hccs.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Foster LLP, delivering immigration legal services tailored for the employer's size, location, and industry. More at fosterglobal.com, U.S. and global immigration services.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Holdsworth Center's Champions of Hope series, featuring 6 Texas education leaders who are uplifting their communities and leading with heart. More about their stories at holdsworthcenter.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. If you have questions or concerns for the commissioner, give us a call right now at 713-440-8870.
And Commissioner Ellis, one of the big questions when we look to the county, we look at Harris County, are around toll roads and the funding. Talk to us about that.
Well, there's a bill in Austin that would take some of the money from the toll roads and give that to the city of Houston, about 30% of it. And the bill also designates where about 48% of the money that we distribute goes among the 4 precincts. It will put most of it in Commissioner Ramsey's precinct. Commissioner Ramsey, who's a dear friend, I had breakfast with him this morning. We don't agree all the time, but we're cordial to one another and developed quite a friendship. And I was making a point to him, the reason you have more county roads is because county commissioners gave you more money to build roads. But let me say this. It was visionary to set up a toll road system. That's what opened up a lot of land in this area, so people could go out in distant areas and get in and out. We have what is considered one of the most efficient and effective toll road systems in the country, in the county. I'm not talking about the state toll roads. People have come in asking, will you just sell them to some group in Spain, which the state did quite a bit of. We have not done that.
Okay.
I think it's a mistake when the city has financial problems for the mayor to go back to our former colleagues in the legislature and ask them to get in the middle of battles here on the local level. I think it's being penny wise and dollar foolish. The city does not pay the full cost of us collecting their property taxes. The city does not pay the full freight for other services that the county provides. We're doing drainage projects in neighborhoods. Our job is to get the water from the bayous to the Gulf of Mexico. I doubt that if we had all of the drainage systems working in your neighborhoods, as an example, and we couldn't get it to the bayou, I don't think the city would say, let's help the county widen and deepen these bayous. It wouldn't happen. We don't charge the city its full rate for the joint processing center where we have an agreement. So the position I'm going to take if that bill passes, by the way, is, okay, you want to play that way? You know, you can disagree in the sandbox and throw a little sand. But when somebody pulls out a knife or a gun, you got to respond. I think that's a mistake. You don't want to get the state into that or to go for one of my colleagues. However the state would get in the business of dividing up the money, that's a big mistake, and you don't want to start down that road. It's a slippery slope. We all have financial troubles. Look, there'd be no World Cup coming to Houston if county leaders hadn't been visionary enough to go build a Astrodome and build NRG. The state makes the money. When FIFA comes, that's sales tax. The county gets the least. The city gets a little more than the county, not much more, but the county did that. So you have to think when there are consequences when you go to another unit of government to say, can you get in the middle of our discussions? If you want to sit down and talk about who does what, do it. But don't go bring in an outside party. That's breaking a knife into a sandbox.
We are talking with Harris County Commissioner right now, Rodney Ellis, and we're inviting your calls at 713-440-8870. On the line right now, we have Kenneth. Kenneth, what's on your mind?
Okay. I want to tell the commissioner from the same neighborhood you are. You know my brother and everything, and I probably would have, everything you've done looked like something I would have done coming out of the same neighborhood. But my question is about these taxes. Now, you Republicans that sat across from y'all on the court seem to have been battling against it. And I'd like to hear your position, which justify this, because I'm about to file a property protest myself, because it's like it's no end to these taxes going up. Thank you.
You should file a property protest, but look, here's what the state did. They limit the increases in property tax revenue on the county side to 3.5% per year. If you go above 3.5%, you have to go to the voters. If you have 2 federally declared disasters, you go up to 7% because you had 2 disasters and you go back down. Here's the problem with that, the impact of it. When inflation grows at a rate higher than 3.5%, the county cannot afford to provide the level of services from the previous year. People are still coming in. Everything goes up. 3.5% on existing properties. Since the Democrats have been in charge, we have reduced the rate. When your value of property goes up, we don't make that decision. We can only take 3.5% of that money because of this cap. But we have reduced taxes each time we've been in control. Republicans, over 20 years they were in control, reduced the rate one time. But look, people are coming. Mm-hmm. And federal sources are drying up. You're going to have a heck of a hole on the city and the county because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. State had a $24 billion surplus from sales taxes. They're going to give $1 billion, I guess, in vouchers. What are they doing with the rest of it? We're in an urban area. As much as it hurts me to say it to you, it costs money. You grew up in my neighborhood. Old Hoxie Perry used to say, everybody wants to get to heaven, but nobody wants to pray. You got to spend money to do it. On that previous question, the question about the Braves trails over there, if that state bill passes, Parks by Houston was in talking to me yesterday. If they're going to reduce the money that I have for transportation, call the city. I just don't have it to go and do it. It won't happen.
Let's talk about flooding. There's a bill now that wants to give more control, Harris County Flood Control District, to more counties and more areas. How do you feel about that?
It would break the trust, the bond that we have with the voters in Harris County. I don't think it'll pass. If it does, you know what I'm going to say? Thank you, buddy. It's yours. The $2.5 billion that was put on the ballot, it was visionary. Should have been the damage really cost us about $10 billion, according to a Kinder study, that we would need. I'm sure the good Lord didn't plan for 5 million of us to be here at sea level. But we're here, and people are still coming. You got to address it. If we want to go do tunnels, the likelihood of federal money coming looks like the state's not going to help us. But look, there's no way you'd ever pass another bond issue if you expected the voters of Harris County to put up $2.5 billion of that money, even if it was not enough to solve their problems. And then you're going to say you're going to bring in other counties? It's an old line, old Reverend Jesse Jackson I got from him one time. He said, let the money come from where the money went. They're not going to take it. So I think that's all talk. Somebody's having a little fun. But if they're crazy enough to do it, the colleagues that I serve would have more sense than to do that. They don't want that headache. Because then take some of your $24 billion on the state level, and you saw, look, it would be hard for Texas to be as great as it is without this crown jewel, Houston and Harris County.
And
amen.
Thank you,
and
Commissioner.
Rodney Ellis is the County Commissioner for Harris County Precinct 1. Commissioner Ellis, thanks so much for joining us on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Coming up right here on Hello Houston, we discuss the politics surrounding the use of the Alien Enemies Act with Rice University's Tony Payan. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. We Opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Signify Business Cash by Wells Fargo. With this business credit card, cardholders can earn rewards on business purchases with no caps or categories to track. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/signify. Terms apply.
Decreasing cloudiness today, so we might see some sunshine later, the high getting up to near 83. Some clouds tonight, a low 67, 79. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, a lot coming up. The Baker Institute's Tony Payan discusses immigration and also deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. Plus, we hear from actors Kanagawa and Tori Gresham from the musical Waitress, now playing at Theater Under the Stars.
And as always, we want to know your thoughts, your questions, and your concerns for all our topics and for each of our guests. Give us a call at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
And remember, you can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click that big orange banner.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. has ruled that there is probable cause to find the Trump administration in contempt for violating his order to immediately pause any deportation flights under the Alien Enemies Act. The administration invoked the act to target members of a Venezuelan prison gang that President Trump says are invading the United States. Senator Chris Van Hollen has arrived in El Salvador to push for the release of a Maryland man who was wrongfully deported last month. The Maryland Democrat says he'll continue to advocate for the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home.
The Trump administration responded to Van Hollen's trip, calling Abrego Garcia a, quote, criminal immigrant who is already home. The Salvadoran citizen entered the United States illegally, but an immigration court later granted him protection from deportation to El Salvador. Abrego Garcia has been living in the U.S. legally and has no criminal record. President Trump has signed a new executive order aimed at reducing prescription drug prices. NPR's Cindy Lupkin reports the order has several parts.
The president signed an executive order instructing the administration to advance cost-cutting moves like increasing generic drug competition. The order also aims to improve Medicare drug price negotiation, which passed as part of the Inflation Reduction Act signed by President Biden in 2022. An official said he thinks the Trump administration can get more savings than the Biden administration. Because the number of drugs subject to negotiation increases each year, greater savings over time were baked into the law. The order also instructs the FDA to facilitate state programs to import lower-cost drugs from Canada. Sydney Lupkin, NPR News.
Hamas is rejecting a new Israeli ceasefire in Gaza. The proposal calls for disarming the militant group as a condition for ending the war. NPR's Daniel Estrin reports from Tel Aviv.
The new Israeli proposal is to pause the war in Gaza for a month and a half, free about half of Hamas's living Israeli hostages within the first week, and negotiate the disarmament of militant groups. A Hamas official tells NPR the group rejects the proposal. The official spoke on condition of anonymity because Hamas was still preparing a formal response to mediators, but in a statement, Hamas and other Palestinian groups said their weapons were for self-defense. They said the ceasefire proposal did not include guarantees to end the war and withdraw Israeli troops from Gaza. Israel's defense minister says Israel is changing tactics and won't withdraw troops from areas they capture in Gaza. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. The city of Houston has slashed its daunting budget deficit by about a third, from more than $330 million to about $220 million. That's because of an agreement between Mayor John Whitmire's administration and two Houston-based engineers who sued the city in 2019, alleging the city shortchanged a voter-approved special fund for streets and drainage. Councilmember Letitia Plummer says the city failed to uphold the will of the voters.
The city of Houston's large and our infrastructure is fractured. We have a goal here to execute what the voters wanted.
After a legal defeat in January, the city was required to allocate $100 million to streets and drainage this summer. Under the new agreement, the city will instead gradually increase its contribution to the fund over time, starting with $16 million this year. A new report from the UH Hobby School of Public Affairs looks at what Houstonians want for their city. News 88.7's Tom Perumian reports.
The report is really more of a wish list of what residents of the region want to make their city more fun. Speaking on Houston Matters, Rice University's Mark Jones delivered the numbers.
60% of Houstonians are enthusiastic about Houston getting an WNBA team, 57% are enthusiastic about it getting an NHL team, and 64%, almost two-thirds, are enthusiastic about it getting a theme park.
Houston's best shot right now is landing an NHL franchise, as billionaire Dan Franklin has met with the league to explore that possibility. Houston is the largest market in North America without a WNBA team, an NHL team, or a major theme park. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
And the Houston Chronicle reports that the Bush Intercontinental Airport will have a terminal named after the late U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. It's 77 degrees on the UH campus, mostly sunny with a high near 83. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One with the Capital One Saver Card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
And
hello, Houston.
That
You know,
first
you're
hour.
joining us for our noon hour, but if you're just tuning in now, you've already missed 1 hour of Hello Houston. What are you doing? Working? You know, you
How
could be
dare
listening
you.
to us. We do start at 11 every day, but this is our second hour, and we've got a lot of great topics to talk about. Remember, you can also watch us on YouTube, or you can join us through the HoustonPublicMedia.org website. Just click that button, and you'll be able to watch us live, or the YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, we've got more interesting things to talk about, more great guests. We're going to be talking about immigration and deportation in this hour. But in our first hour, we started with Celeste and her story talking about school vouchers. Boy, oh boy, did we strike a nerve.
That's right. And we, like Ernie was saying, we've been monitoring what's going on at the Texas House right now in Austin regarding the school voucher plan. And we definitely have had some comments coming in, so keep those coming. Becky from Memorial said, I think the voucher program would allow them to close a financial gap.
Who is the them in this context?
Becky, if you're listening, give us a call and let us know, 713-440-8870. Colby from Katy says it's welfare for the rich.
Kind of is.
Yep. And Tina from Second Ward, the concerns are that people would be taking advantage of lesser quality education. The Department of Education has also been dissolved, so where will be the oversight be for these private schools, which... Great point. Cheryl from West Houston. Here we go, Frank. Here's your teacher. I'm a teacher and I taught both private and in public schools. This school voucher program is going to destroy everybody's future. It's wrong that only the ones that will benefit will be the ones that can afford it.
Well, I've yet to come across a teacher who supports the voucher program.
That's right. And so we want to thank everybody for these comments. You can call us at 713-440-8870. We want to hear what you have to say and your thoughts and concerns.
And if you're a teacher that supports it, I would love to know why you support it. And I mean, we're out to hear everyone's opinion on this.
Absolutely. If you are in support of a voucher system or the education spending accounts, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
And it would help you, Celeste. The voucher system would help you.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you're not for it.
Right. Right. And I'm not for it because I am a firm believer, whether my kids go to private school or public school, I am a firm believer in public education. And we did have a caller, I think her name was Denise, that also said what makes this country great is our education system. And we need to continue. Education is a right for everyone.
And it would appear the voucher program is going to take money from public education and move it to allow more people to go.
It a little more fully.
I went to private school.
Right.
So
to explain it a little more fully, the Texas House is expected to vote today on a bill that creates a $1 billion private school voucher program. Under the House's voucher plan, $1 billion in taxpayer dollars would go toward education savings accounts that families can then use for private school tuition or other school-related expenses. That's what we're talking about here,
right,
if you are curious. So we're asking, what do you think? Is it something that should be done? Is it a great way to help parents have choice over where their children go to school? Or, as the other side may think, it defunds public education and helps as a coupon or a benefit for those that can already afford private school and doesn't help the low-income students?
And something that Governor Abbott continues to say, and one of the reasons he is pushing this forward is because he says that anybody and everybody should be able to send and go to a school that aligns with their family values. And so if that is somebody who wants to go to a religious school, they should be able to go to a religious school. So that is what Governor Abbott has been saying.
The part that's always lost in these kind of conversations is the fact no one is taking religious schools away. No one is closing private schools. What they are saying is you have choice already if you want to send your children there. Financially, you may not be able to. But that's why we provide public school for all the public.
And we have a call right now from Cheryl from Paterson, excuse me. Hi, Cheryl. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. What is your comment or question or concern about school vouchers?
Oh, where do I start?
There's a lot there to unpack, isn't there?
There is, and I know what I'm talking about. I'm a retired school superintendent, so I know what I'm talking about. What they're trying to do is allocate so much money, hundreds of millions of dollars to this, and there's no guardrails whatsoever. Perfect examples. Their public school kids are required to pass lots and lots of testing. None of that is going to be required if they go out of the public school. So if it's not really that important, I'm not sure why we spend hundreds of millions of dollars in public school, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yep.
Second is homeschool. Families that live just kind of day to day, if you dangle between $2,000 and $10,000 in front of them to homeschool their children, I'm really concerned about what that's going to look like. So what they're trying to do is allocate all the funds up front. And I just spoke with Ken Kitzman's office. He is my representative. There are no guardrails. There's no the point they made was, well, we'll figure that out after we allocate the funds. No, they won't.
Well,
you
may
build
be right.
the cart. You build the cart, and you very thoughtfully put things in place, and then you allocate the funds. I am not anti-private school. My own daughter attended private school for a while. I didn't ask my neighbor to pay for it, but I am not by any means anti-private school or homeschooling.
Well, and to your point, teachers in private schools don't really have to even have an education certificate, and some don't.
Do not.
Cheryl, let me ask you this from your point of view as an educator and administrator in that realm. I always like to look for the positive in people and believe they want to do well. With that pair of glasses on, looking at this situation, what do you think they believe are the benefits of having this kind of program?
The benefits were very clearly on display after the last session. The benefits were that your governor wasn't going to actively run against you and get you out of office. And this may sound jaded, but our representatives, and particularly our senators, no longer represent their people. They represent their party or they represent their governor, because the people are telling them one thing and they're doing the opposite. Look at where the money's coming from for those campaigns. So I know that you want a positive view on this, and there is a positive one. Where I live, which is kind of in the country, we have kids that go to private school. We have kids that, although we are zoned to one school district, attend another school district. That's very common. When I was superintendent, we had lots of kids that transferred into our district. So there is school choice. But if you're talking about poor kids, which in our area, represented by our representatives, 75% of our kids are below the poverty line. Their parents don't have the money to make up the difference for a public or for a private school. Their parents don't have the time and ability to take them back and forth because there's no transportation. It's a farce.
So that $10,000 isn't going to help them one way or another.
No, it isn't, and it's not meant to. That's the dirty little secret. It's not meant for them. It's meant for the people that can contribute to campaigns.
Cheryl, thank you for your comments and your eye-opening comments there that made us think about some things. I hadn't thought about the homeschooling and how that benefit of $10,000, what that means in some of those situations. And Cheryl, when you say I was looking for a positive, I'm trying to just find the alternate points of view. I keep believing that people do move legislation forward in a lot of cases because they believe in the programs and policies, and sometimes we don't hear all the sides of it. But sometimes it seems like it's hard to find the other sides of some of these. It's a fascinating. Thank you for calling, Cheryl.
All right, let's move on to another part of the state legislature. You got one more comment?
I have one more comment.
Okay.
And I want to say it was interesting that she was saying she's not anti-private school. Right. And I think that is a very fair point and good clarification. That a lot of us are not anti-private school. In fact, my children will soon, at some point, end up, if we get in, I don't even know. It's so competitive.
They are your children.
It is, all right. We essentially, at some point, will most likely eventually end up at a private school. But last year, I was the PTO president at my daughter's public school, and we are a Title I school, and I saw in her classroom of 26, 24 kids, the power of public school, of education for those that whose parents work 2 or 3 jobs, whose parents have just come into this country, whose parents need the public education system. And so to me, the fact that we're taking anything away from the people that need it most really gets under my skin.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Off my soapbox.
No, I like your soapbox. I'm all for it.
We are curious what you think, how you feel about this topic and all the topics we discuss right here on the show. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Or also you can email us your thoughts and comments at talk@hellohouston.org. Also, we're on the socials. Did people say that? Yeah, the socials.
Old people.
The
old
YouTubes.
people. Thank you, Frank. Well, then, never mind. Okay. We do want to grab one other call. We have Karen is calling us right now from the 2nd Ward. Karen, what's on your mind today? Karen, you with us? All right. We'll go back to Karen later on. Quickly, today is National Banana Day.
Oh, Lord.
Do you like bananas?
I love bananas, and they're
bananas.
Good for you.
My mom loves bananas.
They are.
They are very good for
A
you.
banana and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter every
biggest
morning.
I thought you say olive oil.
Biggest
And olive
problem
oil.
we always have with my mom is low potassium. The doctor always makes sure she eats more bananas. So I buy bananas. Now we know she has dementia. She eats the banana. She eats the next banana. She eats the next. She eats them right in a row. Eats all 6 of them. And I'm like, Mom. And she's like, oh, I just had one. And then I pull all the peels out. Anyway, it's National Eggs Benedict Day, which I am not a fan
I
of.
love a good eggs Benny.
I do too.
Oh my gosh, I love a good
An egg sardou.
Ooh.
Made with spinach.
Yum.
And crab meat.
Ooh, so
and
good.
the final one, which I resisted the temptation, mostly because it was wrinkled. Today was Wear Your Pajamas to Work Day.
Which you've done.
I have. But not today.
Can't get
Only
behind
our-
that one.
Only our Ernie.
Only our Ernie.
I wore pajamas on an international flight once just because I knew we were going to be traveling all night.
Yeah,
I mean,
not
they
my
were more
thing.
sweaties than they were pajamas, but they I could wear them as pajamas or sweats.
As positive, cut you off on your pajama comment.
I was just going to say that I really like to dress up, but I also like to sometimes just veg. And even if I'm vegging, I have my pajamas, but then I change into my comfies.
See, I imagine you have the nightgown, the robe, the matching slippers, the headband, the whole thing.
Curlers, eye mask,
all
of it.
Not to end on a sad note, but Wink Martindale, famed game host of the 60s, 70s, 80s. He was around for a while. Gambit, Tic-Tac-Toe. He has left us. He's gone on to the game show in the sky.
Tic-Tac-Go.
I love that show. He was 91 years old.
We must have lived a very good life.
I'm assuming
he was always
he did.
smiling.
Yes.
That's what made it. I loved his charisma. He was terrific.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we talk to the Baker Institute's Tony Payan on immigration and deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. And we're also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7. The news and conversations on Houston Public Media rely on listener support. If you've never given to Houston Public Media, we need your donation now. And I'm going to tell you why. The entire public media network faces financial uncertainty, and your support will help us overcome any shortfalls that may arise if national funding for public media is cut. There are real threats to that funding, and your gift right now will help Houston Public Media during this time of uncertainty. We need your help now more than ever. All you need to do is go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman here with Ernie Manouse.
Thank you, Celeste. You know, everything you hear on Hello Houston is for you, your interests, and what you want to hear about. Hello Houston lifts up local voices, and you make it happen. And because of that, your donation will be doubled, but only for the next, 39 minutes or so. So right now, if you were thinking about making that gift to the station, do it right now and know that it will be doubled. You do it at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. Avoid the watch now button and just go to donate. Or you can give us a call at 888-909-0887.
And think about what a connected community is worth to you. Think about how much knowledge is worth to you. Think about it and make a contribution at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Your investment helps us remain community-centric. Think about that, too. We do cover national and international stories, but we're looking at them from a Houston point of view. It's us here in our own community and how these events impact our lives. And because of you, we're responsive to what's happening in Houston. Go for give the first time, maybe right now. And when you do, that gift will be doubled. It'll go twice as far, whether it's $50 or $500. Everything is doubled, but only for the next few minutes. Make it count at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And I want to take a moment to acknowledge your generosity. We see you, and as you make your donation, your gift improves life in Greater Houston because you're helping to provide reliable news at a time when independent journalism faces threats. It's an even bigger deal that you're supporting a local station right here in Houston. We're here for you, and because of your donation, our relationship with you will grow even stronger. Thank you for your gift at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
We've been talking about choice today.
Yep.
You have the choice to decide how much to give. Some people give $5 or $10 a month. Some give hundreds. Some give even more. No matter the amount, right now, it will support the future of independent news at a time when other funding sources are at risk. And it will be doubled. So please sign up as a monthly donor or make a special one-time gift at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And here's the reality. Public media funding is never guaranteed. And that's why we rely on you. Your support is the most reliable thing we have. And this hour, your support is doubled. Help protect your newsroom at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
You know, your donation helps pay for local journalism, emergency coverage, and stories that connect Houston. And right now, we are doubling that gift. So if you can make a pledge, do it now. HoustonPublicMedia.org or 888-909-0887.
A healthy democracy depends on people like you having access to clear, trustworthy news. That's how you can make informed choices about your future.
Houston Public Media's reporting gives you the facts without the noise, so you can make decisions with confidence.
But we can't do that without your support. Stand up for your right to information.
Support the reporting that you count on at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, opening the 25-26 season with Porgy and Bess, featuring music by George Gershwin, blending jazz, blues, and spirituals. Select dates available now at hgo.org. Support comes from the Houston Symphony, performing Sibelius's Fifth Symphony under guest conductor Dalia Stasiewska. Plus, violinist Lila Jasefowicz performs Stravinsky's Violin Concerto, April 18th and 19th. Tickets at houstonsymphony.org.
Support comes from the Houston Rockets, presenting their 2025-26 season ticket memberships with access to live sports, suite availability, and opportunities for business engagement. More at rockets.com/tickets or 713-758-7300.
Support comes from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com. Support comes from Houston Chamber Choir, presenting Gather Round, the final concert of founder and artistic director Robert Simpson's 30-year tenure. Saturday, May 31st at St. Luke's Methodist Church. Tickets at HoustonChamberChoir.org/radio. Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to Dr. Mary Aitken, who is focused on keeping children safe from preventable injuries through research, education, and advocacy. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Not only do you get to listen to us, you can watch us online at youtube.com. Just look for the Houston Public Media channel or at our website, houstonpublicmedia.org.
And we got a comment from Isaiah Carey. I know, Fox 26, right?
Fox 26. On YouTube.
He says, my first time seeing this live. Cool. I listen on the radio all the time. So he's looking at us on YouTube.
Hey,
and all these little things, by the way, are cameras.
Yeah.
Thanks,
but also,
Isaiah.
There's a lot that goes on in the chat over on YouTube. So you're only getting half the story if you just listen to us. But it's the good half.
All right, that's good. I really am passionate about this next story. Go ahead.
Yes. On Monday, we discussed how a Maryland man, Kilmar Armando Obrego Garcia, was wrongly deported to El Salvador. The president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, has said that he would not return Abrego Garcia to the United States, even though the Supreme Court said last week that the Trump administration must facilitate his return. Additionally, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the deportation of immigrants in Colorado that faced possible removal due to President Trump invoking the 18th century law called the Alien Enemies Act. With us now to give us the latest on immigration news is Tony Payan, the executive director of the Center for the U.S. and Mexico at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Tony, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay. Well, can we define due process?
We have lots of questions.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues that the Trump administration seems a little bit short on due process.
And people need, the easy definition is your chance to prove your case.
Yeah, you have to. There are 460 immigration judges. Everyone deserves a hearing. But I think in this particular case, Abrego Garcia, who was deported to El Salvador, that's one of the major issues. There was no due process. He was just taken away, deported, and he wasn't given a chance to appear before an immigration judge.
I don't understand how this is an abduction, that someone was just taken and sent away. And the farther part of it, or the next step in that I just can't grasp, why he can't just be returned. I'd even think no matter what's going on at the White House level, the irritation this story is causing them, just bring him back. Why isn't that happening?
Yeah, I think the Trump administration is digging its heels.
But to what end? What does this accomplish for them?
Well, you know, Trump would be Trump if it didn't do that, I think. President Trump, I think, is saying this is a big topic. This is a big issue. It goes well with the base. This is food for the base. And
I would
did
be
you
there
see
with
Grassley's Iowa conference? The base, Grassley's base, which is Republican, was not happy with this.
No, they're not, because I think the American public is beginning to wake up to the fact that the Trump administration is transgressing several red lines here. One is, of course, we're already in a kind of a constitutional crisis. We've been there before when he withheld funding, back to the Nixon era. The president is supposed to execute the laws, and if there is a budget passed by Congress, he's supposed to execute it. Now he's withholding the funds. That was a fight early in the 70s, and of course, the Supreme Court ruled then. President Trump is transgressing that. Now on immigration and kind of an expansive interpretation of the that act that goes back to the late 1700s. So President Trump, I think, is always pushing the envelope, and that's the big
Let me
issue.
go back to what you said, though, because he wouldn't be Trump if he did this. Right. But they actually admitted that this guy was wrongfully sent. If they had not said wrongfully sent, then I'd be like, okay, this is Trump being Trump. They admitted he's wrongfully sent. So even his administration is saying this man should not have been sent out of the country. So why don't they bring him? I feel like there's something else at play we just don't know.
Yeah, no, I think the real mastermind behind this is, of course, Stephen Miller.
Oh, Lord.
I think that's the guy behind that. I mean, if you saw the statements that he made at the White House yesterday, he was even saying that the Supreme Court was not really commanding the executive to bring him back. There's a different interpretation. He said facilitating doesn't mean anything. The verb doesn't mean anything. We're facilitating it by speaking to Bukele. But it seems to me that in the press conference yesterday, President Bukele of El Salvador and President Trump were already on the same page. So they probably spoke before that, and they said exactly the same thing during that press conference.
And they keep referring to a photograph of Garcia with an MS-13 gang member. They keep trying to say that he was an MS-13 gang member, but there's absolutely no proof of that.
Well, let the court decide.
That's
right?
due process.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
So who is held accountable if perhaps Garcia is not safe? Where does the accountability fall? I mean, here we have somebody who has been deported to one of the most dangerous jails. Where is that accountability?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time. I think Mr. Bukele has forgotten that there will be another American president, and there'll be consequences.
Well, we gave him $6 million to take these people, 234. So that's like about, $30,000 per person. Why don't we just say, somebody should say, okay, we're not giving you any more money, or we're not giving you the money we owe you, or we want our $6 million back if you're not going to give us our prisoners when we ask for them.
Right, but the presumption behind that would be that the president would want to do that, and I don't think he wants to do that.
I want to bring up Andre Hernandez. You know who I'm talking about? This is a gay hairstylist. He was also just picked up in Milwaukee and sent to a Texas detention camp or detention place, and then deported apparently to the same place in El Salvador. Right. This guy had absolutely nothing on him. There was nothing. A completely clean record. He had 2 tattoos of crowns, under which one crown said mother, the other crown said father. And because of those crowns, this Milwaukee police person, who's now been fired, put him on the list. So he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah. And they're gone to a very dangerous place. I think people in El Salvador may feel safer because all these gang members are in prison. But this is a prison where, people are being tortured. They're not being fed. They're being kept in very difficult conditions. And who knows what can happen to somebody like Hernandez, who's, a young gay man.
Gay, yeah.
With all these prisoners, and that, he could end up dead. Yeah.
I want to remind everyone that we are talking with Tony Payan, who's the executive director for the Center of U.S. and Mexico at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. We're talking about immigration and what's going on out there right now in deportations. If you have a thought, question, give us a call, 713-440-8870. If I'm not mistaken, too, the White House has said this morning back to Garcia, he is not coming back to the U.S. That is their statement.
Yeah, I think Miller yesterday said that the Supreme Court had actually sided with the president because he gave a curious interpretation. First of all, the word "to facilitate" doesn't mean anything to them, right?
Right.
And on the other hand, the way he read the statement by the Supreme Court was essentially telling it's up to the Trump administration. They have all the power to enforce the laws, and it's up to them if they bring it back. That's a very curious reading of the Supreme Court
this morning
statement.
Saying he is not coming back. That's it, period, end of sentence.
That's the end of it, yeah.
That doesn't seem right.
No, I think unfortunately, I think at this point, the Supreme Court, I don't want to use the word co-opted, but I think it's pretty much there. They got at least a 7-2 majority. And so,
but they did say that the U.S. needs to facilitate the return of Garcia.
Right.
So they weren't taking the president's side there. Now that they've made that ruling and the White House is making a statement, he's not coming back, this is a standoff. How does something like this, if they're equal branches of government, who's ruling what?
Yeah, and this is where the Supreme Court, they don't have a police force.
Right.
They don't have anywhere to go. They simply issue statements. And this is a president who's not hesitated to be defiant to the judicial branch. And that's where I think the constitutional crisis can come in.
So, Tony, my question here is we keep hearing the word unprecedented times. Looking at immigration within our country, is this new, or is this the first time we're seeing this type of interpretation of the Constitution and looking at these type of deportations, or is this something that has happened before in the past?
Yeah, I think it's happened before. We have to go back to one instance. The 1930s, when 500,000 Mexicans were deported to Mexico, back to Mexico, because of the Great Depression. There were no jobs. And many of these 500,000 folks that were sent back to Mexico in the 1930s were actually U.S. citizens because they were born in the United States. And the 14th Amendment is very clear. If you're born in the U.S., you are a U.S. citizen. So citizens were deported to Mexico in the 1930s. And, of course, we have to remember the Japanese who were interned in Nevada, who were also U.S. citizens, and they were picked off and then sent to that particular camp in Nevada with essentially no due process, no rights, with the application of this particular Alien Enemies Act. So it's happened before in history. We've seen it many times. So we have a history of it in the United States. We have a controversial relationship with immigration. So hopefully, we'll get back to some normalcy where it won't be the president against the Supreme Court.
You're hearing from Tony Payan. He's executive director at Center for U.S. and Mexico at Rice University's Baker Institute. We have a call on the line at 713-440-8870. It is John from Richmond. John, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I'll turn down the radio. Bear with me. My biggest fear is that Mr. Abrego Garcia is dead and that the administration is obfuscating because they know this and they have no interest in the rule of law because if you look at Mr. Trump's past, he's never abided by the rule of law. He makes it work for him, for his purposes only. And I'll take my comment on it.
Yeah, John, thank you for that. A couple little notes on it. First of all, yes, this isn't the first time that has been speculated. Also, Abrego Garcia was from El Salvador originally. There was talk also that these aren't just random people that were sent to this prison, that a list had come from El Salvador of which people they would take. And if this name was on that list, there may be something else at play there. But we also have the senator, the congressman, who's on his way down to El Salvador now to see him and see his condition.
Senator from Maryland.
Senator.
Jennifer's on the line from Clear Lake. Jennifer, what do you have to say?
I was wondering, since they're not getting a lot of movement in like a criminal law sense, would his family be able to sue either the Trump administration for mistreatment or the Fox, et cetera, for libel, since they're saying a lot of things about him that have never been proven in a court of law or even supported by facts?
I don't know if Tony's the right person to ask. What do you think?
Well, I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a political scientist, but it is quite possible. I mean, administrations get sued all the time. The problem with the Trump administration is, of course, that it doesn't matter if they get sued or not. The Supreme Court has already said exactly what they have to do, and they're not doing it. So,
this almost, given what our last caller said about fearing that this man is already dead, this is almost a George Floyd moment, I think, that outraged the country. People protested. I think if there's anybody that we can go to, since the courts have let us down, it's our congresspeople, our senators and our congressmen and women, regardless of party affiliation, and demand that they do something about this. So if that's the only place we can go, that's the only branch left, can they do anything?
Well, not really. I mean, they don't have the power. They can issue the ruling, of course, but if there is defiance on
But they control the money, supposedly.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, the most they can do, I guess, order the arrest of a functionary, a particular bureaucrat that's not fulfilling the order if there's a name or something like that. But they don't have a police force.
Couldn't they put pressure on the administration? Look, our constituents are saying they're not going to vote for us if something's not done about this.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the judge up in New York as well issue a particular ruling, and yet she was furious. Zizi, I think it was her name. She was furious because the administration was essentially ignoring her orders. And they do it. They do it all the time. And there's very little the judicial branch can do. They just don't have the power of enforcement, so to speak.
Well, now she's asked for more documentation. She wanted more presented yesterday, and they did not present anything that they were supposed to, and she wants more. So I think, to your point, the more that she can open up what the process was, she wants to see the contract signed. She wants to see the documentation. I'm thinking then the outrage, if there are things in there we may assume we're going to see of the American people, will then feed back to Congress, and that could then push that more forward. Because there's a belief out there, he was sent back, but, Garcia, he probably has some knocks against him. Maybe he is There isn't anything. He was law-abiding. He was here legally now. He had come in illegally, but he had had a status that allowed him to be legally in this country. And so there was no reason for him to be sent. He had never been. He was picked up in a parking lot of like a Home Depot where he was looking for work. That's what they picked him up for, was his crime.
And I think for most Americans, this sounds ludicrous. And so I think a lot of people are thinking to themselves, there had to have been some kind of connection. Where there's smoke, there's fire. It is ludicrous.
Well, Andrew was doing nothing, the gay hairstylist. He was just picked up.
Oh, that other activist who showed up for his citizenship interview, I think.
Oh,
and it was also taken. I mean, I think the Trump administration is pushing the envelope here because they want to test the ground. I mean, the president himself has suggested that these are foreign citizens. Okay,
right.
And there's a point to it. I mean, you could potentially concede that, but what the president has said already more than twice is that he's testing the waters to see if you can deport U.S. citizens, which would be unconstitutional. So I think the president
is calling them homegrown.
Right.
So my question then is, Tony, you said this has happened before. How is it happening again? If this has happened in our history, how is it happening again today?
It's a political issue. I think every once in a while people get convinced that things have gone wrong so badly that they want a strong hand to set things straight. It's difficult to figure out why Mr. Trump, I think, convinced so many Americans that there was something so wrong with the country that he needed to come in and straighten everything out. Really, we're not in bad shape. Not as much as they think we were.
And what is our current right now landscape of immigration when we're looking at currently? I mean, don't we have like the lowest numbers of people coming into the country right now?
Yeah, that's a really very good point. Look, I was just in El Paso, because I have a house there and I go there every so often to spend the weekend. And I can tell you, I went over to Juarez and I asked some of the activists what's going on with the shelters across El Paso, and they said, well, they're closing down. There used to be as many as 32 and then 25, and now very few. And so, the issue at the border is not the problem. And the Trump administration, to be sure, if you look at the numbers, I saw them just a few days ago, is deporting fewer people than Biden did, Why? Because they're not having as many deportees at the borderline. They're actually having to go around the country and try to find them, to detain them, and then deport them. So their numbers are down.
So much to this case. I'm sure you'll come back and talk with us more. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we hear Ernie Manouse's conversation with the stars of the TUTS production of the acclaimed musical Waitress, now running through Sunday, April 27th. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. Knowing more about immigration and how our government can interpret the Constitution matters because it helps you stay engaged in our community. We work every single day to report the facts and deliver independent journalism and bring in the experts to help us better understand why this is so important. But right now, other funding sources of public media are on a shaky ground, and we face an uncertain economic future. Your gift right now can help protect independent news in Greater Houston. It's needed now more than ever. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or give us a call, 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman here with Frank Billingsley.
Thank you, Celeste. So protect your right to know what is going on in our world with a donation to Houston Public Media. And right now, that gift is doubled. So it's your opportunity to support the trusted reporting that you rely on to make decisions every day. So please don't wait. Get your donation doubled right now while you still can. Visit houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And there's so much happening in Washington, D.C., here in Houston, Harris County, in Katy, and all over the world. And when you have journalists working in your best interest, you'll get the facts, not conjecture. That's what we do here at Houston Public Media. You have Colleen De Guzman on education, Andrew Snyder on politics and government. You come here to find out what's happening and understand what does it all mean? Your gift to Houston Public Media keeps you informed and connected. Protect your access to a free press. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And it's double day, so maybe $10 a month works for you. Maybe you can give more. Listeners make gifts in all amounts. Some give hundreds of dollars a month. And right now, your donation will be doubled. So it only takes a few minutes. HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887. And thank you.
When severe weather hits, when power goes out, when the roads are dangerous, this is the station that keeps you up to date and informed.
You've counted on Houston Public Media during past storms, and we'll be here during the next one too, but only with your support.
Your gift today helps make sure this newsroom is ready 24/7 to deliver you critical information when it matters most.
You can make that happen. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Specs. 63 years of large selection. Now that's worth toasting to. Offering anniversary selections all month long. Details at specsonline.com. The fun starts here. Support comes from Downtown Houston Plus. With new businesses like Tenfold Coffee Company, Meow Wolf, Barbacana, Punchline Comedy Club, and Bubble Boba. Details at downtownhouston.org.
Support comes from the Near Northwest Management District, located just off 290 and the 610 Loop, with a mixture of modern and mid-century homes and businesses. More information at nnmd.org, at the intersection of innovation.
Support comes from Novotny & Company, offering commercial and residential property tax protests for 38 years. The deadline to file a protest is May 21st in Harris County. Info and online filing at novotnycompany.com.
Support comes from the Moores School of Music, presenting Puccini's opera Turandot, a fantasy of love in ancient China, featuring soprano Christine Gerke and tenor Limmy Pulliam, April 24th in the Moores Opera House. Tickets at uh.edu/arts-tickets.
Support comes from Interfaith Ministries Refugee Services, resettling individuals and families fleeing their homeland for security and safety. Ways for community members, companies, and houses of worship to help refugees become self-sufficient are available at imgh.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to Hello Houston. Over at the Hobby Center, Theater Under the Stars has just opened the hit Broadway musical Waitress, featuring the songs by Grammy Award winner Sarah Bareilles, telling the story of Jenna, a waitress, an expert pie maker who dreams of a way out of her small town and rocky marriage. In this all-new production, one of the waitresses, Dawn, is portrayed by actor Tori Gresham, and Oogie, Dawn's love interest, portrayed by Kennedy Kanagawa. Tori and Kennedy are both here with us now. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hello. So, Tori, first time in Houston?
No, actually, I went to college in Texas, not in Houston, but I would travel down here every once in a while and check out the city. So
yeah, happy to be back.
Happy to be back. It's a lot warmer here, so I'm happy in the sun.
Okay, now here's my stalker question to Kennedy. So
Yes.
if people are fans of yours from maybe Milky White, from Into the Woods, you did that puppet acting thing, which we'll get into in a minute, which is kind of amazing. But you did a vlog that was online.
I did,
And
yes.
you introduced those from a particular location, which I assume is your home. And
My living room.
On the wall behind you, it says Houston, Texas.
Yes, my fiance is born and raised in Houston, and his whole family is here. So we live in New York, but to remind us of where we're from, where our roots are, we have a framed map of the city of Houston and for him, and then a framed map of the city of Tokyo for me.
So forgive me if I should know this. Have you performed here before in Houston?
I have not, no. I'm very excited to be here. The Hobby Center is beautiful.
So
We had our
beautiful.
first day there yesterday, and it's stunning.
We were all staring at the ceiling.
Okay, I've got a story about that. I'll tell you later about those stars on the sky.
Yes,
But
please.
anyway, back to your show. People love Waitress. It kind of is one of those shows with a cult following. Tori, why do you think it connects with an audience the way it does?
Well, I definitely think Sarah Bareilles' music has a big part of that, and how beloved she is. And she writes music that feels very relatable and very easy to listen to. But the story itself, I think, is one that a lot of people have found themselves in at a point in their life where they kind of don't know what direction to go in. They feel very stuck. And what I love about the story of Waitress is that Jenna finds the strength she needs through the community that's around her and the people that build her up, and how you can really lean on others when you can't find that strength for yourself. Sometimes it's the people around you that show you exactly what to do and remind you how good of a person you are, and all the people you have to fall back on. So it's just a story about community that anyone can relate to, I really think.
And Kennedy, you were, as we mentioned earlier, in Into the Woods. And if I'm not mistaken, with Sarah Bareilles.
I was, yes.
And so did you know you would be doing Waitress? Had you done Waitress, or is this just happenstance?
Just a coincidence. We did Into the Woods on Broadway in 2022, and I did a production of Waitress last year at the Ogunquit Playhouse in Maine. And then now I'm getting to do it again here, and it's completely random, but it's a fun connection. And
Knowing Sarah Bareilles, though,
Yeah.
does it give you a unique insight into maybe the music, into what she writes and how she means it?
I mean, she is so incredibly multi-talented, not just as a songwriter, but as a singer and an actor. She is so funny. And I think Waitress is a show that has so much heart and leads with heart, but also has, especially with my character, these moments of levity and the ability to be silly, and it's fun to lean into those.
Yeah, kind of your guys' storyline does steal the show a lot of the time and does draw attention and pulls attention. The other interesting thing for me is, so you worked with Milky White. Now you're both working with pies. Pies are a lot harder to have personality and bring to life in set pieces and interaction with. But really, it's the story of the love between your two characters that I think moves people through, at least definitely in through the second half of the show. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's interesting, and people will see this who haven't seen the show once they see that there's a lot of different storylines of love kind of going on. And I love the way that it shines a light on how love can look like a lot of different things. And especially for my character, Dawn, she's very scared of love. And I think it's such a refreshing way to see it portrayed that she's very afraid to give her heart to someone, and Ogie is so unrelenting at the beginning, which ends up being just so charming. And I think, like you said, brings a lot of like levity to Jenna's story. That is, she's dealing with love in a very, very different way, and it's just really. Really lighthearted to see that storyline and how when she can let her guard down and not take herself so seriously, how sweet love can be, and wholesome and just easy. That's what I love about. And it's very easy working with you as well. It's easy to love you.
We have a good time.
We have a great time.
Linda Lavin recently passed. She's an actress known primarily by most people from the TV show Alice. There are a lot of similarities between Waitress and Alice. Is the Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, the movie that Alice came out of, is there a bond between this show and that? Is there some kind of, because you're almost the Vera character from the TV series.
I haven't thought about that actually until you brought that up just now.
You have the Flo kind of character.
100%. Yeah, I think that, and there's a lot of other stories kind of similar, like Diner, the same kind of feeling that evokes, or these kind of archetypes, and I'm going to be thinking about that tonight when we do our first review. Yeah. No, I love that. I'll call you and I'll tell you my answer after that, because now my brain's like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
So Kennedy, when you're looking at these roles, and you've got the very physical comedy in it too, and you've got some great dance and all of that that's in that character, how much for you is let's pull it out each night, or is it, I got to do this again tonight and get it right?
I think it's definitely a little bit of both. I think this show has some really heavy moments that are very impactful. So I think that it is very important with my track to shake people out of that and remember that we're also having fun and like we're allowed to laugh. And it's also just so much fun selfishly to get to do that.
Yeah.
That being said, it's also very, very physical. And so some days I am like, I don't think about it in the moment when I'm like jumping over things and kicking and stuff, but then I get off stage and I'm like, okay, I need a ventilator. Because I think I'm going to collapse.
Before we run out of time, probably terribly unfair question. Is it easier, Kennedy, to work with Milky White or with Tori?
Oh, Tori is so much easier. Milky White is such a
Correct
diva.
answer.
Don't tell her I said that. But
And that, of course, is the puppet that you brought to life in an amazing way. I watched some footage of you moving it again, and then from the Tony Awards. It's just
incredible.
And it's so simple, the gestures, and yet the life is there.
Thank you.
You've got like 15 seconds to answer this question. As an actor, do you use your body the same way?
yes, 100%. I think that puppetry and acting and the physical life that resides in each are definitely tethered. And I think that when exploring the ways that you can bring a puppet to life and have it move, you first have to figure out how your own body moves. And so with a more physically comedic character like Ogie, it's really helpful to be in touch with what you're capable of doing and what you're able to express and communicate with the audience.
Kennedy, Kanagawa, and Tori Gresham, thank you both for being here. Currently, there you can see them on stage at the Hobby Center in Waitress for Theater Under the Stars now through Sunday, April 27th. Find out more at tuts.org.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening and watching Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Welcome back to Hello.
Listen, we understand we are in uncertain times, and Houston Public needs your help to secure the future of reliable news in Greater Houston. And now is the time to give and double your donation at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or pick up that phone 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman here with Ernie Manouse.
You know, because of all the international and national news happening each day, it's easy to feel like we're living in uncertain times. And for Houston Public Media, that uncertainty extends to our funding sources, specifically the future of the national funding of public media. Houston Public Media will remain your trusted, reliable source for news and information and insightful conversation about your Houston community and the state of Texas and the world. But now, more than ever, we need your help to keep this going. With your help, we can remain here for you, free for all in our community. Please give at houstonpublicmedia.org or by calling 888-909-0887.
Setting up a monthly gift is the best way to support this newsroom. So please go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. Pick up that phone, 888-909-0887.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.